run my server. Nodemon app.js. And then I'm going to look at the question, the first one. So the first one says, registering a user with an already taken username is possible when it shouldn't be. Fix this. Think of database constraints. So let's first look at what that means. So what that means is that first let me seed my database here in SQL so that we start with a clean slate. PSQL-f db. Just do it SQL. Cool. So this seed or this SQL file is not inserting anything. You just get an empty database with 2 tables and no rows. So as some of you have realized by inspecting it. So let's try to make sure that my server is running. It's running over here. Then let's try to add or sign up a user. So this is the data that is going to be sent, just that username, send. Cool. The user with ID 1 was created, and this is that response. Now I shouldn't be able to send this again and get a success message. I should say one, it should return a different status code, probably. I think there is a status code 409 that is like conflict when something is sort of like repeated. But right now, if I try to send this again, my network should fail, but is going to succeed. So let's see, this is ID user with ID 1. I'm gonna send it again, and I get now user with ID 2 with the same username. If I go to my database, and I inspect my users table, see that there are 2 users with the same username, right? So let's take 5 minutes to think about how can we prevent that. There are multiple ways in which we can prevent it. One is with database constraints. Another one is like with some validation in the backend. So let's take 5 minutes to think about that. How could we prevent that? And maybe start writing some code that will do that. What would you change in the database or in the server?
Question one.
Just Google database constraints Postgres. Okay. Yeah. So you implemented that already? Or just look into like SQL constraints in Postgres. So we have an announcement. Somebody just got a job. We're gonna be bringing the along. So let's go celebrate.
Oh, shit.
got my whole ass moved. Shit, everything that comes out of your mouth resonates. Like, everything. Everything.
Last night.
I got time. Like, I'm walking really fast, but this it's hard to
Yeah, but you know, God gave us room with It was not that cold. Yesterday was not that cold. During the day, it's all right. It's fine. I feel that's very lightweight. Yeah, that is too
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh. Nope. But you have the exact same code I have. The database, this.
It's just the D and it's just
Where?
like check on the terminal.
Oh. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, to connect directly to that one, yeah. It connects directly to the database instead of having to do PSQL and then /C.
No, what is useful
So the name of the file, F is for file, and then is to seed or to basically execute a JavaScript file. Yeah, like.
And then this.
And then this is to connect directly to this database. And then I don't have to do C again because I'm already in that database.
I'm like done. I don't like these switches to chat.
Okay, so what are some of the ideas for us to prevent this from happening? Registering a user with the same username twice. O'Neill? A unique keyword on Postgres. So let's do unique keyword. Just do unique Postgres. Unique Postgres. So there are some resources here. Let's try this one. This one, Postgres unique constraint. The Postgres unique constraint ensures that the uniqueness of the values enter into a column or a field of a table. The unique constraint in PostgreSQL can be applied as a column constraint or a group of column constraints. Cool, but yes, this is what we want. We can say to any column, if we want the values of that column to be unique, we could just say this to the column, and then the database will ensure that it is unique, right? And so let's try this. So we can say var name, so the username column. You can say varchar, and then remember that the constraints come always after the data type. Yes.
Can you do it with alter tables?
Yes, we could do it with alter table. Let's do it here first. So we can say, we can change the SQL to say username is going to be a variable character length. It's going to be unique, and it must not be null. This not null means that you have to insert, you have to add something. If you try to add like nothing, then it's going to throw an error. Yes?
What's the difference between varchar and text?
Somebody already asked that question in the past, yeah.
We only to try to find out. You can limit varchar by putting a number in parentheses behind it. So if you only want your username to be 36 characters, you put it, yeah, on varchar. You can't do that on text.
Yeah, so here, if I want my usernames, let's say I don't want a username longer than 64 characters, I could say this. I cannot do the same with text. Yes, Joey? I'm not sure. I think it will be depending on the implementation of the database. For us, from our JavaScript world, we don't really care about. I have a sense that it must be, the database will try to be efficient, and it will probably create an index for all the usernames to be able to check quickly. But I cannot, take that with a grain of salt. I don't really know. Yeah. We could think that under the hood, the database could keep all the usernames on a hash table that will allow it to have constant access, constant time access. But I'm not sure. Cool. So if we do this, let's reset the database. Let me exit from here. PSQL-F. Reset the database. We want to reset the database because we want that new constraint to take effect, right? Now, so let's try to sign up a user. Send that. We get this user with ID 1. Now let's try to sign up the same user. Now our backend responds with a message username not available. Please try a different one. This is our backend. So this is a couple of things. Before we go into that, any questions about the unique constraint? Michael, could you share the other approach that you were talking about with JavaScript?
Have a query, then check to see if it does.
Right, so what Michael was saying is like here, we could sort of like try to get a user by username. So we know that we have the username in this object, so we could do something like some other try catch, or actually just in the same one. Here, say user already exists, and say select star from users where username equal username, and then passing the user as a second argument. Now this user object here, this is a user object that has a username key. This and username. Thank you. Did I close? Oh, sorry. This is up here. And then we could say actually this will. Let's copy this, db.1 or db.any, paste this, passing the user as a second argument, and then we can say if user already exists, then throw the error. Right here we'll reply with the error. Let's see, return res.json, or for this is the message user already exists. Something like this. This could be another check. The only sort of like downside of this will be that this requires 2 trips to the database. One to check if the user is already there, and another one to insert it. Versus if we do the table constraint, then the database takes care of that internally, right? A couple things here will be, well, let's see if this works, and let me remove this code from here, and we can talk about what this code is doing. Just throw the arrow. Let me remove this from here. Oh, and also I don't have res here. Note that. So this will be like, let's say, return null or something like that. Because note that here I don't have res because I'm not in the router. I'm not in the router file. I'm in the DB user queries, right? But this file I'm using in the router of users. Yeah. Then what we could do here is, where do I have the wait? Here. We could just check if this function returns null or if this function returns an error, then then send this message back, or a message with saying that username already exists. Let's see. Actually, let's do it here. So instead of that, I'm gonna say throw new error, and the message of this error is user already exists, or username taken. Right? Then here, once I call this function, if this query returns something, I'm gonna throw this error, and then I could just check here in my users router. In fact, my users router will fall into the catch because it threw an error, right? And then in there, I could just reply with the message, which is something sort of what I'm doing here. Let's do, maybe remove this. Yeah, let's try this. Also, something to watch out for here is there's a few ways to do this. One is, if we do, what do we know about db.any? A little bit louder. Any number of rows. That includes 0, right? You can return 0 or multiple rows. So in here, I'm gonna have to check. This will return, db.any will return an array with the rows in, right? So that means that if that array has any length, that means that we got a user with that username already. If that array has any length, then that means that we have a user with that username already. That means we retrieve something. Our username already exists with that. So I'm going to say if username already exists that length, then throw this error, username taken. Right? And then that's going to throw the error. When the error is thrown, you have the try catch, the previous try catch on the user's router. Note here that we have this try catch here. This will throw, so this will throw the error, which means that we don't execute this code, we fall into that catch, and then this will be executed. So let's try this out. So on Postman, let's reseed the database. Cool. Oh, but I have the unique constraint, right? Oh, but that doesn't really matter. So let's click on send. Oops, I don't think I have the server running. Oh, it is running. Error on line 39.
You commented on, you got a comment on that, so no.
Yep. Cool, the server is running there. Let's run this. Sign up. So we signed up the first user correctly. Now let's try to sign again. Then we got the error. We got this error saying username already exists. This is not the error. This is not the error that I threw. This is an error that this is the error that PG Promise will throw if you have that unique constraint. Right? You can see that it says, well, one is sort of cryptic. It says like length, some severity of code, but from here you can sort of like make it up. It says key username equal 114373 already exists, right? And then it says constraint user username key. So let's see, let's go back. So that means that our check didn't really work because our check should have ended that. Oh, maybe it's because username. Let's see if we're falling into here. So the else is still running. But no, a throw will cancel. A throw will cancel everything. Let's try to do this. This console log user already exists. Let's console log in down here. Let's remove this. So what we have here is trying to grab a user by that username, and we're gonna try to console log it. So let's try it again. See the database. Wait, where was I? PSQL. Now let's run it. Node1 app.js. Sign up. That works. Try it again. Still getting the same error. Did we see the console log? The console log says promise pending. What does that mean? That means that I forgot to await. You probably have that in your assessment. And if you console log, you will see the promise awaiting. So you need to await on anything that is asynchronous. Remember that db.any returns a promise. I had forgotten that for a second. Let's try again. Re-see the database. Sign up. The first sign up succeeds. The second sign up, well, we didn't get the error that we were expecting. But here, note here, this is what we're seeing. This was the first time I signed somebody up. When I did that select star from users, where username was that, there were no users, right? So we got no rows, which is this empty array. Now the second time, we did that select star from users with the same username, and we found one. We found this row, right? Therefore, we get length. We get an array with some length, a length different than 0. And then we fell into this if statement, and therefore into here. So here is like, if I want to put the message here, you do it there, error that message. Let's try again. Sign up, username taken. So remember that when an async function throws an error, or when the promise is rejected because maybe there is a problem with the database or with the network request, you fall into the catch statement. That's why we have catch statements, because we want to catch those errors and do something differently. But in this case, I wanted to send a 409, which means conflict, meaning there is that username was already taken. And then I wanted to send this JSON with a payload and a message that says username already taken. So that is two ways in which we could have approached this. One with the unique constraint in the table, or manually here checking with JavaScript if we have something before we make the insert. Right. Questions about this? Mostly the unique constraint, yeah. We're here or? Yep. So if you have the unique constraint, you don't need this. You don't need this because if we look at here, this code here, the catch is doing that. So Do you remember that error that PG promised through when I tried to add the same user? Let's look at it again here. Let's look at it here. Let's do console log error. So let's look at what that error comes when the constraint prevents the insertion. Sending that, we get this error. Duplicate key value violates unique constraint. This is PG promise complaining that the database is not letting it insert because of this reason. Because that new insert is violating the unique constraint, right? We're constraining that column so that values in that column are unique, right? So what I'm doing here is just like looking at this error. So I know that the database will throw this error if we try to insert something with the same username. So in here we could just look at what characteristics this error has, and one is it says like a detailed property that says this already exists, and then this error code. This error code must be probably unique, saying this is the error code that PG promise will use if you try to insert something that is going to be duplicated or that is violating the unique constraint. So what I'm doing here in this catch statement is I'm checking if the error code is 23505, which is the one that we saw here, 23505, and the detail includes something that says already exists, then just set a custom error message saying username not available, please try a different one. Then I use that as my sort of custom error, and I throw that error. That is then when in my, if I put this code back, this if statement. That is then if I run this again, oops, username, turn new user. I should be seeing that error message. Where did it go? Let me see if the server is running fine. So the server is just showing this console log. Anybody sees where?
I'm curious. Why are you making it equal error and then throwing custom error?
Because I don't want to show like this to the user. If I return this to like as JSON, this doesn't make a lot of sense for a client that is trying to consume this API, right? So I changed it to a custom message that is a little bit more, let's say, user friendly. Mm-hmm.
So you're making it equal error.
Yes, it's to sort of override the original error with mine. Mm-hmm. Yep.
You just don't have customer.
Yes, and then I could check on the routes. Yes.
I'm saying you don't need line 18. This is the line 18.
Where?
You don't need line 18.
Line 18.
Because you're updating the generator code.
Oh, because there might be other errors that are not this one, and then I want to throw those original ones.
But that only runs that's error.
Yes, this piece of code, this if statement, will only run if we match these two conditions, which is the error code 23505, and then the detail includes already exists. But for some reason, I'm seeing an empty object. Oh, I think I remember where. In here, we have error.message, but I'll have to remove this. So note here that I'm doing. This is the model, or this is where my SQL queries are. So my SQL query, if it succeeds, it's going to return the new user. If it fails, it's going to throw an error. If it fails because the username is already there, because of the unique constraint, it's going to fall into here, right? Now, on here, I'm having this sort of custom message saying username not available if the error that comes from pgpromise matches these two conditions, right? This one and this one. And I'm changing the error from like an error, an actual error, to a string. And then I just throw that error. I throw that string. But when you throw, then wherever that was initiated from is also going to throw, right? Which this was initiated by this, right? So this code doesn't run. We never return user created. We fall into that catch. The catch is checking if the error is a string, then that means that's the error that I set. And then I want to reply with a 409 and a message with the error. And that's when then we do this, sign up, and we get message username not available, please try a different one. So this is that message that I set there. Savita, you had a question.
I'm confused about the way it's written though. Can you go back to it?
So this part, the route or the model?
Wherever it says, wherever you assigned it to a custom error message, and then you said, yeah, so, and why don't you just say throw ERR there? Why do you go to the trouble of assigning ERR to a custom error and then just throw the custom error? Why don't you just throw the error?
That's a good question. So let's see what happens when I throw the error. It's just a matter of, we could do this, but let's see what, the error will be much less friendly, less user-friendly, or, wait, do I have, oh, but not reassigning it. Let's not reassign it. Let's just throw the original error, send, we get this error.
I don't have an issue with it being reassigned. I just don't know why it's reassigned, but then you throw. It's like you're ignoring the fact that you reassigned it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, that's correct. In fact, that's a really good point. I could get rid of this and just do this, right? This will throw the error. This line here outside of the if statement will throw the error even if it's my custom one, it will throw that one. If it's not, it's going to throw the original one. So this should work the same, right? If I send it, username not available. Because what you were saying, like I was reassigning, but I was ignoring the reassignment. Yeah. So, yes, other questions?
Can you go a little bit slower, like when you flip between the screens, like
Okay.
a little confusing.
Cool. Other questions about the fixing the create user to not allow duplicates? Cool. Let's look at let's take some time for the second point. The second point is adding a to-do with a username that doesn't exist should not be allowed. Similar with think of database constraints. So let's take 5 minutes for you to look at that. Maybe first start by seeing that if you add a to-do with a random username that doesn't exist, it lets you add that to-do.
Can you like what I'm using doesn't exist or I'm not showing against that screen? How do you add to the system that doesn't exist?
That part?
Well, I was thinking it's the screen, wasn't it? This is what we said previous code.
Wait, what code are you interested in?
Both the user model and where we work on.
I haven't made that many edits from the code you have. From the code when you first cloned. Yep.
is there a way to send a Postgres rather than
Right.
from the database directly?
What do you mean from the database directly?
What's trying to figure out? I guess it would be the same.
Yeah, that's correct. Like the database cannot really send a custom error.
Good question. I don't know if it's stopping it.
Give me 1 second.
Oh, actually, no, I'm sure you're probably right.
So let's try this. So I'm gonna send you a link. So let's try this. Install that VS Code extension, the second link. Install that VS Code extension on the second link. And then after you have that installed, click on the first link. The goal will be so that you can connect to my VS Code and you can see the code that I have on your computer instead of having to look at it in here. So you'll need to install the VS Code extension first. The second link, yes.
What is the sign in? It says at the side. Yeah, sign in with your GitHub account. Oh, okay. It says something. Okay.
I see that there. So there's two people joined. Did you click on the second link and logged in into with your GitHub account?
So I can't tell one.
When you click the second link, no, when you click the first link, it asks you to log in.
Yeah.
Then you pick your GitHub account. Joy just joined. But I wonder if you can see. You should be able to see my files. But anybody is able to see the files? All the files? To-dos, live share, participants, server.
That's me, but I don't know. I'm not trying to do it myself. It's always like that.
I don't know why it asked me. Oh wait. Give me 1 second. Yep.
I have a read-only problem.
Yes, that's fine. I don't want you to change my code.
Okay. Maybe should.
So you can just like, I was gonna ask you to update for a minute now.
Yeah, that's good enough. Like, quit and restart again. Click on the link again and see. Is anybody able to see all the other files?
You try down. You just go for the side. Yeah, that makes sense. the whole thing.
Yeah, see, I don't see.
So, Jonathan, you're good. Those are one times.
Of course,
Because those are
we can open it. Yeah.
There's all other people are saying like
I see it on other people.
no, yours is like being downloaded.
I'm downloading it.
I haven't seen it. Downloaded my files. Those are my files.
Oh, they just.
I only see
Yeah, you can open it.
It's still try to ES code and start the game and then
Right now, I mean, all
That's not part of that. That's okay. Bro.
Anybody else needs assistance with connecting?
That's all the reality is that joining collaboration sessions time out while waiting for hosts to respond.
tell the mode.
Oh, but I wonder why it's sometimes it's asking me like for. So quit VS Code. Quit VS Code. You can quit VS Code with Command Q. For some of you, it asks me to it asks me for like confirmation, and some others are able to join without that.
Is it your terminal that we see, or is it still our terminal?
If it has a clock, it's my terminal.
You do a split terminal.
Do you see this terminal?
No. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Oh, I think, yeah, this is like saying it's yeah, I just think about that, you know, student line.
What does that mean? It's still showing as
I'm gonna have to disable this thing. That is so that you can see, so that I can see where you have your cursor. Okay, so let's keep going. So the second thing that we wanted to do was adding it to do with a username that doesn't exist should not be allowed. So let's look at first how it's behaving. So let's go to the to-dos. To create a new to-do, let's try to send this, which is first to-do with this username. Try to send that. Cool, so that was fine because this username is registered in my app. If I try to send it again, that's still gonna work. I just created another to-do. But now let's try to do something like this. Try to add a to-do with a username that doesn't exist, right? So if I get all my users with this request, I get all my users, there is only one user, right? There's only one user. Now I'm gonna try to add this to-do where the owner is Benno, which is a user that doesn't exist. So let's send. And this allowed me to add that to-do, right? but it should have not let me. Let's look at all our to-dos just to see what we have. So we have currently 3 to-dos. We have the first one, the second one, both for user Alejo, and then the third one for user Beno. But this user doesn't exist, right? So we want to prevent that. What are the approaches that we can go with to prevent that from happening? I mean,
Database to do the reference to the owner.
to add a
reference the user to the user's ID.
So we can add a constraint to the table so that if you try to insert something with an owner with an owner that is not referenced in the user's table, then Postgres was going to throw an error, right? What's another approach? Somebody else. Michael?
Insert into query where the owner.
Well, in fact, here, if we wanted to, like the other approach is similar to the one we have for the username. Just check if the username exists before. And if the username doesn't exist, don't allow it. If the username exists, then allow the insert. So similar to what we did before with like the JavaScript checking if the user already exists. We could do that as well. So here, what we can do is, as Amin said, just make sure that when you are inserting a to-do, you are referencing a user from the users table. So what we can do here is say the owner, and wait, can you see like on your screen, you see when I change files, or you don't see when I change files?
I think I'm looking at the videos terminal. So it's purple and I can't uncheck it. And
I think you have to click on Alejo's name and the.
yeah, he turned yellow, but that's it.
But can you see like if you click on my name, does it take you to the SQL file?
Yeah, to me.
So
Maybe double click.
Yeah.
So Peter, what files do you have open right now? I bet you have your database file open
Well,
right
I'm in the SQL file. I'm in the database
See?
file.
I'm looking at it.
Oh wait, I think Savita, you have special permissions because you were switching my files. Oh, thank you. You just did something and it changed. What are you doing? Your circle comes full and.
You made it earlier.
It was you.
It's me?
Yeah.
Oh. I guess it's just, what is this? Focus sent. Copy collaboration link. Stop collaboration session. I'm gonna need to see how to disable that. Okay, just like click on my name, and I think it should take you to the file that I'm currently on. So here, oh, this is cool because then I can call on you, and you can change the file too. So here, what do we need to change here? So when we're adding a to-do, we want to make sure that this column references a user in the users table. So what we can do is owner varchar references users ID. Right? Yes.
Maybe you should add a cascade on delete.
On delete cascade? Yeah. We could. Yes. Oh, yes, this is the username, sorry. Yes, this has to be the username. So here what I'm going to do is, when Postgres is inserting a value to the to-dos table, it's going to check this references user's username. What it's going to do is going to check if that username is in the users table. So once we have that, Mike finally received your invitation for some reason. Yes, if it says read only, that's fine. So we did that. Now let's try to make an insert again and see what happens. So what we changed was this. So let's go to Postman. Let's try to get all the to-dos to make sure that we have these 3 to-dos. Now let's try to add this to-do again with Benno as the username. Hit send. Oh, damn it, it still worked. Do I have? Oh, but
You have to drop the table.
oh, thank you. Yes, I have to drop the table. Or, as Jana said earlier on, you can make changes to your database without having to drop the database. In fact, that's most likely how you're going to do it on a production database. What you could do is, let's say I don't want to drop the table. What I can do is I can connect to that database. Let's say PSQL -f db. Oh, damn it! I just seeded the database. But let's do it. Let's still do it here. SQL-d just to do it. So this database currently doesn't have that constraint of unique usernames, not unique, of referencing the username on the users table. So what we could do is we can alter it. So if you don't want to drop the database again, you could just say alter table. The table that I want to alter is the to-dos. And I forgot what I do after this. Alter table, I think is add. You know what? Let me look at. Anybody remembers the alter syntax? Then just look it up here. Alter table Postgres. Alter table, add column data type. So in this way, you can add more columns to your database without having to drop it. Constraint. Let's do constraint. Add constraint. Okay. So what we need to do here is add. Oops. Let me quit this. Alter table, add constraint. This has the same effect. Constraint. I can give it a name. Let's say must have owner, and then let's say that has to be drop gender. What did we say? References, right? So we do references, users, username. So yeah, alter table, out constraint, must have owner, references, user. I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. Alter table to do's. Let's see if this works. You don't have to remember this for the assessment. Syntax error add of references. So I think it has to be with this here. This has to be the column name. The column name was owner. Spelling mistake, add constraint. References. Yep.
Is it just not primary key that you're trying to reference?
No.
Mine over to grab the unique primary key.
The ID?
Like the ID number.
And that worked?
And that works fine.
No, so I think I have a spelling mistake. Maybe this has to be to do's. It keeps saying that I have a syntax error here. Maybe let's do quotes here. And then now it says references. Let's see, just that I haven't done this in quite some time. Alt table distribution, add constraint. Oh, okay. Seems that it's a little bit more. When we do it with alter table, I have to say that it's a foreign key. So here, so alter table, add constraint. I can specify the name, must have owner. Let's see if this works. And then I have to say it's a foreign key. Did you see that? Must have owner. Primary key, foreign key. Foreign key, then how is this behaving? You guys don't have access to my terminal, do you?
No.
Key. Owner. References. Foreign key. I guess I need parentheses here. Yes.
Is it going to be on the thing tomorrow?
This is not going to be on the test tomorrow.
It will be like an hour left.
Yeah. Let me just do. Cool. So yeah, no, we can't really do this the alter table right now. But yeah, you could just read the documentation. I'm struggling because I haven't read the documentation. Cool. So let's see what else do we have here. So let's take 5 minutes to do this one. Getting all to-dos is returning a status code of 201, where it should be at 200. So this one should be pretty straightforward. Getting all to-dos is returning a status code of 200, which is wrong. It should return 200. where do you go and change that?
Is the error in a post request? Because that's the only tool I want to see some post requests. Message get. That's what it means. Change the default to that.
No, the default, I thought the default is 200.
So we did it right. It's not.
You're writing this status tool. This is not. I'm just telling you about this one that I'm working on.
Yeah, that's correct. No, yeah, you're right, exactly. Yeah, this one is when the error, when the server throws an error, this is a full 4.5 is very difficult.
No, we actually have to roll in neat routings.
Cool. So how do we change? How do we set the response status code on an Express server? So remember that by default, when you send that response with res.json or res.send, by default the status code will be 200, right? So let's go in here. Where are my files? Here. Close this. I'm gonna go to the to-dos router. Let's see, to get all to-dos. Okay, so by default here, we have the status code 200. I thought, wait, maybe. So I thought I had set this something like this. Status 201. Right? I thought I had set this status 201 so that you have to change it to 200. But it turns out that it was by default. If we don't specify the status code, res.json will automatically set the status code to 200. So for this one, there wasn't really anything we needed to change.
There's 201 lower down on the page on line 43. Yeah, that's what
Let me see. Oh yeah, so this one 201, but this one is okay. What is the difference between 201 and 200? Google it right now.
Which one did you change? The one on 136?
I didn't change anything.
Once it's created, once
So then make sure that I mean, could you share what you found?
The 2-1 is, it says created, so it's like more logical to have it for a post request, which creates something to it.
That's correct, right?
And 200 we just okay. And it's more logical to have it for get request.
Cool. Does that make sense? So when you're creating something new, you should reply with a 201 saying something was created. When an operation went okay, mostly a GET request, maybe a patch, a successful patch that went okay, then you will say created, or a delete request, right? Cool. So yeah, like in this case, just remember that when you do res.json or res.send, by default, Express will set at 200. Just worth to keep in mind. Let's see. Let's look at this one. Deleting a to-do is catastrophically deleting all the to-dos in the table. This is a really bad bug to have. Please fix this. So try to delete first get all the to-dos, then try to delete one by specific ID, and then see if all of them are deleted. Throw error message. You don't want to show the
You have to put that DB in the end. So you don't need the
And here is where you will see the post and the cascade.
So the data here.
And then you can but it's going to come as an object. Yeah, or if you want to change sort of like which is not the best. You can just try to do just send your error message. Error message. Oh, right, but then, yeah, but then it will just be error packets.
That still would work.
Yeah, sure.
We'll give actually 500 server for it.
Oh, that leaves us 400.
Yeah.
So then sending, and this will, what this will call is JS, the last one.
Just like give the server.
Yeah, here you will do that. In fact, yeah, I have here the error setting because I wanted it. You can I think the error will be just a message.
Can I just create new error and just do some?
Oh, that's
Well, you can do that, yeah. Yeah, it's not an error. Oh, say, yeah, I mean, there's no right answer. Like, you can handle it in the route, or you can handle it that last.
Outside of it.
Yeah, it's not good to change the type of objects. So why is it that then deleting a to-do is deleting all the to-dos? Joey? The query. Let's go to the to-do delete. So this is the route, the delete. And then I'm calling the to-dos remove to-do. So I'm gonna go check that out. Let's go to models to-dos. Then remove to-do, this is the function. So tell me more about that, Joy.
The way it is now, you're just specifying that you're not singling it down to the single row. So you need to add the where.
Right, so here I'm missing a where clause. If I don't have a where, then I'm not singling out the specific row that I want to remove. Therefore, all the rows are going to be removed, right? So delete from to-dos where ID equal $sign ID.
Wait, does that one word too?
$1. If I leave $1, I need to change this from an object, the second argument. You see that it's an object here, to an array. Or I could also just leave it like this. Yeah, if I have something like this, this will work too. So this or ID. So let's try that. Or questions about this edit that we made here? So if you forget the where, then everything gets removed. So let's try this out. Let's add a few. Let's get all the to-dos. Let's see what we have. No to-dos. Then let's add some. 1, 2, 3. Let's get them all. This one. Get to-dos. Send. We have 3 to-dos. Then let's try to remove the one from the middle. I'm going to take this ID. Then on the delete, this is the delete request. I'm going to change the ID to be actually this one, 00F3. You might have a different ID. In fact, it's like almost guaranteed you have a different ID. And then let's send. Oh, we didn't get anything. Let's try to get all the to-dos. Oh, okay. It did remove only the to-do that we wanted. It removed only the to-do that we wanted, which was with ID 00F3, 005, 025. So it did remove it, only the one that we wanted. That's good. But then this is just showing an empty just showing an empty array. Why is it showing an empty array? This might be okay. I mean?
Yeah, it's in your to-dos.
Uh-huh.
And you're doing div.any.
Oh, here we're doing div.any. That's correct. That's why we're not getting any. That's why we get an array. Like. Right. So remember that if you want to return whatever was just removed or whatever was just inserted or whatever was just updated, you put returning at the end. You can put returning here. Returning star returns everything that was removed. So let's try this one more time. Let's get all the to-dos. Now let's remove the first one by .id. Let's paste it here. Send. And we got the to-do that was just removed. You may want that or you may not. Yes?
Not work with the object,
$. It will, but not $1. It will need to be $, and then a key. So you have $1 and an object here. It's not going to work.
The return, when I was trying it with the $, /, it didn't return. It returned the stationary.
Here you have this. You have something like this.
Yeah, where ID equals $.
Like that?
Yeah.
But do you have it like this here?
I didn't let that, and I had to return after the last /.
Returning. Maybe it was the spelling. Returning star. Now let's remove maybe the last one just to make sure that it still works. So we have one and that. Let's paste this here. Cool. Seems that it removed. This is the one that was just removed. Let's try to get all the to-dos, and we're back to empty to-dos. Cool. I think that's the second point. That's the next one. Trying to remove a to-do by an ID that doesn't exist is returning an empty object with status code 418. It should return 404 and the following object. It was given 200. So let's try to remove. Or before we do that, any questions about this earlier point of deleting a specific element given their ID? Remember that you have access to the code. You can go in and check it on your VS Code.
When we disconnect, will we still have it or no?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. But maybe I can look into it to see if there's a way that you could save it automatically. That would be really cool. Cool. So yeah, this was the delete to fix that. Now let's try to do this. Try to delete. So note here that I don't have any to-dos. Now I'm going to try to delete the same to-do that I just removed. This should fail because that to-do no longer exists. And we say send, and we get payload empty and error 200, error false. The status is 200. I thought I changed the status. But anyway, like here, what we want to do is not return 200 because this is not okay. And instead of this empty array, let's return an error message, right? Saying the delete didn't succeed, or this ID, the to-do with this ID doesn't exist anymore. So look into the code. Let's do like another 4 minutes. Look into the code, see where we could change this from happening. Why is it that when I try to delete something with an ID that doesn't exist, it succeeds? Let's take 2 minutes to explore. Okay, what are the approaches that we discover here? Yes. DB1. Okay, that's one. Let's hear a few others. Michael.
In the to-do row, change the code to 4.
But where in here?
Yeah, and then change the JSON to.
But so yes, but let's see. These are changes that we will need to do. Let's say maybe here. Let's say payload is to do not found, and then maybe error true. But this doesn't change. I believe this doesn't change our thing. If we go back to Postman and try to delete that, I'm still getting this empty array. I'm not really seeing my message. Oh no, I didn't change it to DB1. But besides DB1, is there another way?
I'm questioning now, right? But I just kind of put it in the if statement with deleted to do.
Here?
I changed the payload to the message and put the rest status in there for 4.4.
Oh, but the problem is that if we put this here, I don't want to put this in here.
I mean, not remove it, give it.
Just paste it? Like move it from here?
Not the errors. Change the payload message and put the rest status 4.4.
Oh, here? But the problem is that then that will work. That won't work if I am actually deleting something, because it's gonna say to do not found when I'm actually deleting something. I mean, which one did you see?
In the if condition, you do delete the deleted to do dot then, making sure the array has at least something.
Right. So here we could take advantage of the fact, or not taking advantage, but if we're aware that db.any will return to you an array, then if the array is empty, then that means that nothing really was deleted, right? So you could do if there is a length, then return the deleted to do. Otherwise, return this error. So let's first see that this works, and then let's come back to the other. So here we see that that was not found. The to-do was not found because the SQL query didn't return anything. It returned an empty array with no rows, right? So remember that when we do here, db.any here will return an array. And because, well, there's a few things. One is, remember that delete by itself doesn't return anything, right? But I'm saying returning star, because I want to get whatever was just deleted. And then, so that's one thing. So this will return something. It will return what was deleted. Then I have db.any, which means I'm going to get what was deleted or nothing, if nothing was deleted. And remember that db.any returns to you an array, right? So what we could just do is, as we did here, check for the length. And then if we have a length, then that means that we actually deleted something. If we don't have a length, then that means we didn't delete anything. The original check that I had was db.one, and here we'll take advantage of pgpromise. So pgpromise will throw an error if you have a db.one and there is nothing returned, right? So if I have a db.one, but the SQL query here returns nothing, pgpromise will raise an error. And that error will say, let's look at it here, console log. So let's try this. So I changed this to db.one. I'm going to remove the length from here because I'm no longer going to have an array. Remember that db.one will not give you an array. It will give you an object. It will give you the actual row that was deleted or inserted, depending on which one we're doing. Then let's look at Postman. Let's try to get all the to-dos. There's nothing. Now let's try to remove this unexistent to-do. We have to-do not found. And because we have db.1 instead of db.any, PG promise raised an exception or an error, through an error. So if we go to the console log, then we have this. Query result error code, query result code dot no data. Message, no data returned from the query. Receive 0. Query, this was the query, right? And the important part here is that this is the importance of like using the appropriate methods on DB, on the PG promise, to help you assess what you're getting back, right? So db.1 is expecting 1 result, but it gets 0. Then it throws the error, and then we're catching that error here with this catch. What this catch is checking is if the error is an instance of, or in other words, if the error is a query result error and the error code matches the error code that query result error code no data, then we know that we don't have anything to delete. We return false from here. What I did here was like reassigning to do to now be, instead of undefined, to be false. And then in here, if we look back at the previous code, in the router we have if deleted to do, right? If the deleted to do is a truthy value, meaning we deleted something, then let's respond with 200 and the deleted to do. Otherwise, if the deleted to do is falsy, meaning we didn't remove anything, like in this case when we got an error, then fall onto the sort of like the else, even though we don't have the else. 404 to do not found, right? Questions, comments about this? So we saw two approaches in which you could have done it. One is db.any and then checking for if there's anything in the array. The other one is taking advantage of the fact that db.1 will raise an exception if no data is returned. db.1 will throw an error if no data is returned or if more than one row is returned. Right. So that is db.1.
One example is open book, right?
Yes. Cool. So let's take a look at. Okay, so we get this one to do not found, error true. Then let's take the next 10 minutes to try to add this, and then after that we see it quickly and we go home. Yes.
Is tomorrow's assessment going to be as complicated as this?
Tomorrow's assessment, I think this is complicated because of the structure that I gave in place. Since tomorrow you're building from scratch, it will be as complicated as you make it. Yeah. However, from here, I think an idea that you can take from here is the file structure, right? Separating your files, and just the constraints that we looked at, the review of the difference db.any, db.1, etc. Yeah, as well as the status codes and what you return with those. Yeah. Cool. So let's take the next 10 minutes to try to add the tags table and see if we can get this to work before we leave for today. Being able to tag a to-do with a specific tag. And you would throw an as an error? Really? Oh yeah. Yep. Error instance. Oh. But it doesn't become an instance of error, does it?
No, because this is what type of string. I don't know what instance of.
it's a read. What it's actually to do.
If you do it like with row,
We need to do something for that.
you should get true.
Oh, maybe so. Just give me the architect, right?
I mean, if it goes into it doesn't have any,
Well, yeah, because you pass you do a string, so you can do a letter. But still goes to catch point, as a what though?
I guess.
So we'll just catch.
That's a good question.
We'll just catch.
Can't do anything that's wrong instead of that doesn't give you a keys. Those like things like that, yeah. You can just do it.
Problem with app.js, why do you export app? What uses that?
That is some tests that I was planning to introduce you to, but I decided against. Yeah. So let's try to do this in 2 minutes. So who created a table tags and another table to those tags too, right? So we will need those two tables. Let's look at that. Let's go to the SQL file. Then in here, let's create table tags. We said that the table tags will have an ID. So I'm going to make that an integer because I want it to be a number. And serial, what does serial do?
Primary key.
Oh.
It counts each one.
It will auto-increment the ID. In other databases, I think MySQL is called auto-increment. In Postgres, it's called serial.
You need to specify it because it's only increment.
Actually, I think that's correct. Yeah, if it's serial, it's by default an int. Yeah. Then a name. Let's say this one is varchar. I don't want to create a tag without a name, so I'm going to say not null. Not null will prevent it to be empty. And then an owner. The owner will be a varchar, and it's going to reference the user's username. Right? This is so that so we associate tags with a specific user. Question?
It's not working. You're referencing the same name.
The same name for each table?
Same, some arrow name.
Like in this?
Owner, it's not going to work.
It should work. Yeah, like because this is a constraint on a different table. On
Yeah,
the
but it's referencing oh, you're not referencing to do. Oh.
No, yeah, username.
Well,
So then we can say let's create a table to do's tags. What this table is going to store is the relationship between to do's and tags. It's going to have literally the same ID, so I'm going to copy that. And then it's going to have a to do ID. This is going to be an integer. And then this is going to reference the to-dos table, ID column. Then we need a tag ID. It's going to be an int, and it's going to reference tags ID. Cool. Does this seems correct?
The to-do ID is an integer, but the ID
Oh.
in to-dos is varchar.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, so Brianna catch here a mistake that I have, which is the to-dos, the ID here is a varchar, right? And then I'm saying here that the to-do ID is going to be an integer. So when we have references, we need to keep the same type. So this has to be actually varchar. Otherwise, Postgres is going to complain. Remember that the to-dos ID is varchar because that ID is not being auto-incremented from in the database. That ID comes from a function that I have in JavaScript that generates an ID. So let's execute this here. TB, do it just to see PSQL, and we have a syntax error. That is because I forgot the semicolon here. Run that, and then we have those two tables. So actually, let's leave this here as a review of SQL creating tables and columns. Since we already took some extra time of you in the morning, I don't want to take any extra more. Yeah. So So that's pretty much it for today. Tomorrow you will have the entire day for the assessment. It's going to be creating a database, creating a server, and a very tiny front end to get 2 things from that server. Yeah, that's it. Cool. I'll see you all tomorrow. Yes.